There's a certain way people who grew up in the 1970s carry themselves. It's hard to describe, and even harder for anyone born after the 2000s to fully understand. They move through life with a quiet certainty, a kind of inner balance that doesn't need explanation. It's not nostalgia, it's psychology. And if you pay attention, you can still see it in how they think, react, trust, and endure. Stay with me, because understanding this difference might change how you see generations, including your own. People raised in the 1970s grew up in a world that offered very little protection from reality. Childhood wasn't carefully supervised or constantly monitored. You were sent outside, not tracked. If you were gone for hours, it was assumed you were living, not in danger. There were no phones to check in, no messages to reassure anyone. You navigated the world using instinct, memory, and common sense. Psychologically, this created something that feels rare today: confidence built from experience, not reassurance. Many people from that era still carry an inner belief that says, "I'll handle it," even when the situation is unfamiliar or uncomfortable. To understand where that mindset came from, you have to look at the generation before them. Many parents of the 1970s generation lived through war, post-war scarcity, or deep economic uncertainty. These were people shaped by survival, not self-expression. Emotions were not discussed. Complaints were unnecessary. You did what needed to be done. Children absorbed this atmosphere without explanation. Responsibility wasn't taught through lectures, it was modeled through behavior. You watched adults carry weight silently, and you learned that this was simply how life worked. So, as a result, people growing up in the 70s developed maturity early. They were expected to contribute, to adapt, to fix things instead of replacing them. When something broke, you didn't panic, you tried. When something went wrong, you adjusted. There was no assumption that help would arrive immediately. Often, the help was you. Psychologically, this built resilience through necessity. Dependability wasn't a personality trait, it was survival training disguised as childhood. What's often overlooked is how grounding that environment was. Communities were smaller, neighbors were present, support existed, but it wasn't announced or displayed. People helped because it was normal, not because it needed recognition. Children saw this and internalized a powerful lesson. Life is serious, but manageable. Problems are expected. Responsibility isn't punishment, it's part of being human. That's why many people from that generation feel older than their age, not physically, but mentally. Their sense of stability came from lived experience, not theory. They became a bridge between two worlds, one foot in a slower, quieter life without constant stimulation, and one foot in the modern digital world that arrived later. They remember boredom, silence, and long stretches of time with nothing to distract them. But they also live in an era defined by speed, noise, and endless input. This makes them uniquely grounded. They aren't chasing attention, they aren't competing for visibility. Their confidence doesn't come from being seen, it comes from having survived life without shortcuts. Now compare that to the generation born after the 2000s. From the very beginning, their environment was different. Screens were present early, information arrived instantly, stimulation never stopped. The mind is always active, even during moments meant for rest. Psychologically, this creates a very different challenge. This generation is intelligent, creative, and emotionally aware, but they are also overstimulated in ways no generation before them experienced. Their brains process more information in a single day than someone in the 1970s might have encountered in a week. This leads to faster fatigue, shorter attention spans, and a constant sense of pressure. Even when nothing is wrong, something feels urgent. Social media offers connection, but it also introduces silent comparison. They measure themselves constantly, often without realizing it. Rest becomes scrolling. Silence becomes uncomfortable. They aren't weaker. They are navigating a world that moves faster than the human nervous system was designed for. Their challenge isn't survival through scarcity, it's survival through overload. And that requires a different kind of strength, which is still being developed. So the real question isn't which generation had it easier or harder. It's what kind of pressure shaped each one. One learned resilience through responsibility and silence. The other learns adaptability through speed and complexity. Both carry burdens the other never faced. Now, I'm curious, which generation do you think was shaped more harshly, and why? Were you born before 1980 or after? And how do you feel that environment shaped the way you think today? If this made you reflect, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is for. Subscribe for more psychology that explores how generations, environments, and experiences shape the human mind. Like the video if it resonated, and share your perspective below. This isn't just content, it's understanding.